What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic, everything sports related podcast. Today, we have a very sad and real podcast to be creating today. It's not something that I thought I'd be making. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be making this podcast, I would have said you were full of shit. It's something that came at us fast. Life comes at you fast. This was a crazy experience. I'm forever grateful for everything that the Chicago Cubs have put together throughout the years. And it's crazy to think that yesterday on July 30th, we saw the final pieces of the core go. On July 29th, it started with Anthony Rizzo, and we're going to break that down and talk about the trades and the MLB Trade Deadline and how that all went and everything that went into that and played a role. But yeah, I mean, it's really crazy. It's really crazy to think that we are in this position that we're in right now. And don't get me wrong, like I like the position we're going in. I like the path we're headed on. I love the prospects we got in return for these guys. I feel like, we're going to get into it, but I feel like one of them that I thought was going to be probably the second best haul that we got in return wasn't. But one that I thought completely wasn't, we got a lot. So it's very different and it's very expandable. And I want to start off by saying thank you to Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Kris Bryant, and everybody else that was a part of this Cubs trade deadline. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for everything you did. And we're going to break that down and we're going to be doing individual conversations about it. But I just wanted to get that out there. I wanted to have that conversation because this one hurts. This one hurts a lot. It's something I've never really experienced. Now, the crazy thing is that not a lot of Chicago fans have either. With the 90s Bulls, we knew it was the last dance, but they got to finish that season out and win on top. They won a championship. Scotty left, Dennis left, Jordan left, everybody left. You know what I mean? Phil Jackson left. And that's what happens. But for us to be on this roll where back in January, we're talking about a crosstown World Series, and now and now we're in full rebuild mode and we're helping the White Sox at that. And, the Dodgers, we're going to talk about the Dodgers too. That's insane. Dodgers, if you didn't know, acquired from the Nationals, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner for prospects pretty much. I mean, that's freaking insane. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they are an amazing front office. Don't get me wrong. And their prospects are top tier. Like they have an amazing farm system from top to bottom, amazing development team, amazing everything. Amazing facilities, top of the line stuff. And they're just great at drafting. That's just the facts. I definitely need a haircut, but it's one of those things where I just didn't see it coming. Like I definitely saw Max, you know what I mean? But I did not think they'd get both. But to break down the Cubs to get into this, we're going to start off with when it started. The Chicago Cubs throw a combined no-hitter. Zach Davies, Andrew Chaffin, Ryan Tepera, and Craig Kimbrell against the Dodgers, nonetheless. They throw a combined no-hitter. I believe this was back in late May, early June. We're in first place. We're tied for first. We're living life. We really do think this is going to be a crosstown World Series. Kris Bryant looked better than ever. Javier Baez was figuring out his stuff. He was looking a lot better than he was in the beginning of the season. Anthony Rizzo, his health, it's looking good. Jake Arrieta isn't horrible. A lot of things went into role. We're playing, and we had the best bullpen in baseball without a doubt. Andrew Chaffin, Craig Kimbrell, Ryan Tepera. The list goes on and on of just amazing relievers that we were having. And that's just, that was just something we hadn't seen in a very long time. Like I'll go as far as to say, if we had that bullpen in 2017, this exact bullpen that was 2 days ago, I think they give the Dodgers a run for their money and potentially could have went to the World Series and played against the Astros. But who knows, at the end of the day, it was a slugfest back then. But yeah, I mean, you lose 10 games, or no, you lose 12 games straight. It's the worst since 2010, 2012, something like that. And when you have these amount of stars, it's not okay. When you have, 2010, 2012, it's completely understandable. But you can't have that happen when you have Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Contreras, Hayward, all these other guys, which, is what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's the craziest part to me, is that like you have all these guys, not one of them could step up in one single game. So with that being said, Jed Hoyer, Theo Epstein's successor, he made the move, and he said, life comes at you fast, and these guys are all upcoming free agents. Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, all upcoming free agents. And that's just the truth. Javier Baez wants something $200 million or more. Anthony Rizzo, apparently the offer we offered him wasn't enough. So, we don't know if he was going to resign. Kris Bryant is a Scott Boras client. So he's definitely going to get his bang for his buck, especially after an all-star year, playing third base, second base, shortstop, left, right, and center field on a consistent basis. And first, the man's been everywhere except catching and pitching. But excuse me. Yeah, that's just how it is. Wilson Contreras, I believe we still have until like 2023 on the rights to him. So obviously, like if the price was right, you move him. But if it's not, then you want to build around a guy like Wilson. But for me, I knew this was coming. We talked about it so many times in this podcast, and this channel, that with Kevin Lopka too, that it just, you're not going to be able to keep all of them. I think you could keep Rizzo and one of the two, Bryant or Baez. I don't think you can keep all three. There's no way. I mean, especially with the Ricketts, like they're not going to pay a luxury tax to that extent. There is no salary cap in baseball for my casuals just watching this. So there's no salary cap, but there's a luxury tax. So basically, go over the luxury tax, that's on the owner's ass. Like that's on you. Like you have to pay that. You have to pay fines, and that's just not their style. Traditionally, I've never really seen them do it to that extent. 2016 was one of the years I think they spent the most. Jason Hayward, Ben Zobrist, getting a Aroldis Chapman. It was a lot, but I mean, it got the job done. And that's why I think in recent years we haven't gotten the job done, is because we haven't been spending as much. But let's talk about the first trade. The first trade was a few weeks ago. It was Jock Peterson. Ronald Acuna Jr. He tears his ACL for the Atlanta Braves. They need an outfielder. They need an outfielder desperately. So they go, all right, Jocktober. Peterson is one of those guys you can trust in the playoffs. And even though he didn't do much with the Cubs other than spring training when he was on a roll, and then immediately did nothing, just got injured, and that was it. But I think that plays a role, obviously. But, he gets traded for Bryce Ball, a first baseman out of the Atlanta Braves pipeline, out of their organization, out of their farm system. I like Bryce Ball a lot. I think he's a young kid, 23 years old. There's a lot of potential there. There's a lot we could do with that. So I really like that trade. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but it was right then and there when we got Bryce Ball. And I'm not saying Bryce Ball is the future first baseman of the Chicago Cubs. You got Patrick Wisdom, potential of bringing Anthony Rizzo back at the end of the year. Spoiler. But yeah, I think that was definitely a telltale sign that Anthony Rizzo was next. And I said it. I think Anthony Rizzo goes next. I think this is going to be a problem. I think it's something that we're not talking about enough. I didn't know if he was going to be next, but I knew he was going to be the first one gone of the big three. Next up, we had Andrew Chafin, though. Middle of the game, I believe it was 3 or 4 days ago. Andrew Chafin goes to the Oakland A's for a 26-year-old outfielder, Greg Deichmann. He's 21-year-old right-handed pitcher, Daniel, what was his name? Daniel Palencia. I always messed up his last name, but yeah, I have it right there for me. But yeah, Daniel Palencia, I like him. I like Greg, I should say. I like Deichmann. He's going to be coming on the podcast very soon, so I'm really excited about that. He's got a lot of potential. I'm very excited to see Greg Deichmann and Brennan Davis, and we're going to get into who else in a little bit. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be a great move. Greg Deichmann is really hardworking. I think the best thing about Daniel is he's so young. He's 21 years old. So you can make Daniel into whatever you want, as long as you have the right development team and the right trainers and the right coaches in the minor leagues, which I think they do. You got guys like Braylon Marquez, Cole Franklin, and Riley Thompson, and so on and so forth, that, Justin Steele, of course, Keegan Thompson, the list goes on. I'm just naming names. But they're looking really good, and they're coming up a lot sooner than we thought. So I think this development team and this scouting team is getting a lot better. Wicks, we just drafted. He's a stud. I love Wicks. We're going to see what happens with that. But yeah, Andrew Chaffin gets traded to the A's. Andrew Chaffin had an amazing season. He had a damn near sub-2 ERA. He was just killing it. The Sheriff, we love him. We love everything about him. He will forever be missed. He's one of those guys that I'll always remember, even with his short time as a Cub, because he was just so much fun to watch. He was just a cool dude. He's very out of the ordinary in a sense, to where like he just lives his life. He wears what he wears. He has the mustache, the mullet. I mean, everything. It was just cool. It was just he doesn't have the body of a typical baseball player. Like, the guy just lives his life, and he does it to a very effective level. And he proves everybody wrong. I mean, when we first got him, I was like, we didn't give up a lot. So I was like, all right, this guy's just someone, you know what I mean? But he ended up being very effective for us, and he's really helping us right now. So I'm really excited about that. Next up, and this one hurt. This one hurt just a little bit. This one hurt. We have Ryan Tepera going to the Chicago White Sox for 23-year-old left-handed pitcher Bailey Horn. I like Bailey a lot. Bailey's had Tommy John surgery in the past, so that's unfortunate. But once you have it once, typically you're not going to have it again. The way, in recent years, we've been seeing that. Shohei Ohtani is one of those guys who have had Tommy John surgery. Yu Darvish has had Tommy John surgery. Many people have had it. And they bounce back, and they're amazing. Back in the day, early 2000s, which was back in the day, in the 90s, when you had that, it was like a devastating injury because of the way medicine was and the way surgeries were planned out. But now it's more of it's more productive. The surgery is more productive in a sense, to where like, okay, well, we can fix this and it'll probably never happen again. But you do change your mechanics around. You do change your velocity and your speed to pitch, and it's one of those things where it's like, as long as you know what you're doing, you should be okay. As long as you go at the pace you can go, you should be perfectly fine. But Ryan Tepera to the White Sox, you add into that Aaron Bummer, Garrett Crochet, Michael Kopech, Liam Hendricks. Like, I thought this was an amazing acquisition. I thought, that could put them over the top to be World Series favorites, if not already. You got Eloy Jimenez coming back, or he already is back. Luis Robert is coming back very soon. It's very unfortunate that Nick Madrigal actually didn't get a chance to come back. He's out for the rest of the year. I believe he tore some part of his hamstring. I don't remember the exact details, but I do know he's out for the rest of the year. Had him in my fantasy team. Very unfortunate. Next up is a big one. Next up, we're going to talk. This one's like crazy. I don't even know like how to say it. It's Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo on July 29th, 2021, after his 10 years with the Chicago Cubs, is traded to the New York Yankees. He's traded for Kevin Alcantara and pitcher Alexander Vizcaino. If I butcher that, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do all my research. I'm not really sure on who Alexander is. I'm gonna get a better idea, better understanding on his mechanics and everything in a little bit. I'm gonna be doing a breakdown on all of these guys we acquired, not just the trade. So I'm really excited about that. But Alcantara is a dog. This kid is a stud. We got an absolute beast for Anthony Rizzo. So whether Bryce Ball is the future, or Patrick Wisdom, or even if Anthony Rizzo does come back at the end of the season, which I'm hoping for, it's one of those things where it's like, it just hurt. It just hurt a lot. And just to break it down, I wanted to tell a story too, because it's one of those things where I feel like we don't get a chance to talk about it enough. I think it's something that goes very underrated, is when these guys get traded, you always talk about like what they did for the Cubs. But Anthony Rizzo is one of the only players I've actually had an attachment to in my entire life. Like obviously like Walter Payton, is one of those guys my dad and I grew up, when I grew up, my dad always, taught me about Walter Payton. I grew up with Derrick Rose. I'm a big Derrick Rose guy, Jimmy Butler, Joakim Noah, the list goes on and on. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Tays, Andrew Shaw, Duncan Keith, the list goes on. You know what I mean? Brian Urlacher, it's just, Anthony was different. And I met him a couple times. The thing about Anthony is not only was he an amazing baseball player, he's an amazing human being. For people, if you've been living under a rock and you're watching this podcast and you didn't know, Anthony Rizzo beat cancer when he was with the Red Sox. Him and John Lester were on the same team, David Ross as well. Theo Epstein was there. He was the GM as well. But Anthony Rizzo beat cancer. And when he beat cancer, not only did he beat it physically, he destroyed that shit mentally. Like, he started, he has a family fundraiser, fundraiser. I'm sorry, a family fundraiser. I believe it's called the Anthony Rizzo Family Foundation, if I'm not mistaken. You could check that out. I'll have the links in the bio. But yeah, I mean, he started going to, Laurie's hospital when he was traded to the Cubs, and the Children's Hospital, and just visiting all these kids, doing amazing things, and just helping out the community a lot. So not only did he do all of that, you know what I mean? Like what he did for Cubs fans in general. Like for me, I have a story. Like if you don't want to hear it, fast forward. I don't give a shit. But I'm not gonna take it personally. But for me, one of the crazy things was my dad was the biggest Cubs fan I've ever met in my life. And, born and raised, like I was born here, and my sister Katie, she's 10 years older than me, so she got a lot more experiences. But the experiences I've had, he always took me to Cubs games. I met, Ryan Dempster, I met Kerry Wood, I saw Carlos Zambrano. He didn't want to talk to me when I was like 5, but whatever, didn't take it personally. But yeah, he had me meet a lot of guys, Fukudomi, so on and so forth. But I think the coolest experience me and him we actually got to meet was Anthony Rizzo, because my dad, it was in the early 2010s, was actually diagnosed with cancer. And, we fell in love with Anthony Rizzo for not only his game, but for his story, obviously, for obvious reasons. He's trying to show you that not only can you beat cancer, but you can be the best person you can be at the highest level, even after it. And my dad was, a hardworking union guy on the side. He was an artist. He was a caricaturist. So he drew for the Cubs, he drew for the Bears, he drew for the Bulls, Blackhawks, so on and so forth, even the White Sox, but wasn't the greatest fan of that, but he did it. Yeah, so he would give caricatures to the players, and sometimes they'd sign them for him and give him a copy of it, or they'd print it, and you know what I mean? He gave one to Anthony, and we were just talking to him and talking about how he's going to be the next World Series champion for Chicago. And this is back in 2013 or something crazy. Yeah, and my dad beat cancer. He did beat it, and that's why ever since then we were just the biggest Anthony Rizzo fans. And then in 2015, my dad's cancer came back, and this isn't to get all sappy with you or anything like that. It's just I just wanted to share the story. It came back. It was stage 4. I was a freshman in high school, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a lifelong Cubs fan. He's a diehard. This man knew every player from top to bottom. Bears and Cubs. This man knew everything. He loved the Blackhawks and the Bulls too, but this man knew the backup kicker of the 1942 Bears. Random as shit. Not even a great team. He just knew them, you know what I mean? And he knew the bench players for the Cubs back in 1937. He just knew this shit, dude. Like the back of his hand, and he installed that in me. And that's why, a part of why I have a podcast today is because I just have all this knowledge and have all this stuff I want to talk about, but no one to talk about with. Yeah, so later in 2015, we found this out late 2014. So this is my freshman year in high school. July of 2015 passes away, and it was crazy. It was crazy because you felt it in the air. You felt it in the air that these guys were going to be good. And I wish he would have got a chance to see that. Me, him, and my mom were actually at Baez's first home game as a Cub. I believe that was in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, 2014, something like that, before he got brought down again. But Rizzo, man, he always said it. There's a picture on his Facebook with Rizzo in the Stanley Cup after the Blackhawks won it in 2015. He wrote, "This is going to be our next champ." He wrote, "This is the next champ." And for me, going into 2016, I was full in. I was like, this is it. Whether you're physically here or not, we're going to win this for you. And it was literally the happiest day of my life on November 2nd or November 3rd, depending on where you were, whether you were in Cleveland or Chicago. It was the happiest day of my life watching Anthony Rizzo, of all people, catch the final out of the World Series and win it. So that's my story. And I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm not trying to tell this sad story just to make you feel bad. I just want you to know, that's one story out of how many, you know what I mean? How many fans do you think have a similar story of someone who, lost their fight to cancer? So they sympathize with Anthony Rizzo and they gravitate towards him because of that story, or even just because they lost a loved one who loved the Cubs or lost Anthony Rizzo. there's stories like this everywhere. And that's exactly what Anthony Rizzo was for the Chicago Cubs. This man was the champ, the people's champ. Like, that's what he was. And that's the craziest part is you never thought this day would come. You always thought he'd retire a Cub. I always did. And I think he still will at one point in his career. I think he will end it in Chicago. With that being said, though, I love the guys we got in return for Anthony Rizzo. It wasn't, a fucked up trade. Like, it was pretty productive. We got a lot. We got a lot back. We got a lot more than I thought we'd get back. 31 years old. I love him to death, but 31 years old with back problems, and it seems to be chronic because it's been the last few years that this has been happening on a consistent basis. It is what it is. He had a home run, his first home run as a Yankee last night. That's why I wanted to wait till this morning. I just wanted to take a moment to like process it. You know what I mean? It was just a lot. It was a lot. I'm usually on top of this, but like I was like, wow. Yeah, his first game as a Yankees wearing the Chicago Stars and the Chicago flag gloves, and it was really cool. But Anthony Rizzo will definitely be missed, and it's very unfortunate. But the prospects we got in return are very good. So I'm very excited about that. Next up was Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell, one of the greatest closers of all time, definitely up there in the top three. Started off rough when we first got him in the summer of 2019, and then 2020 looked a lot better. And then 2021, this man's been elite. Like, he has like a 0.88 ERA or something crazy. Like, this man's just been a dog, an absolute beast. We got him. Check this out, boys. And it's crazy too. We're gonna have my boy Adam Saleh on the podcast later. He's a diehard White Sox fan. Been one of my good buddies for over 7 years now. We've been BSing about sports for I don't know how long, about the Cubs and Sox. But one of his favorite players, and he made him my favorite player of the White Sox as well. Like, at first I kind of was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm 5'8", he's 5'8". I was like, I don't know who this kid really is. But he's great at, looking at prospects the same way I am. And he got me invested in Nick Madrigal. So for Craig Kimbrell, the Chicago Cubs get Nick Madrigal and Cody Hewer. And Cody is one of those guys where he's young. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's interesting to the fact that, like, he could be very good. Actually, don't quote me if he's right-handed or left-handed. I actually don't remember. But yeah, I mean, he had a lot of good moments. He had a lot of bad moments. He's very young. I think you can develop that into whatever you want. The good thing about Cody is the White Sox have such good pitching development is the one thing I will pride them on. They make nobodies into somebodies. Like Chris Sale originally, when he got drafted, it was supposed to be a reliever. And that he turned into one of the best starters in the league at the time. And he's soon to come back too for Boston as well. Kyle Schwarber's in Boston too. That'll be interesting. But with that being said, Cody, I feel like, going into our development now, will be even better. Because, you're getting your wisdom and a lot of things from both sides. And I think it's very promising. But the definite win of this trade was Nick Madrigal. It reminded me a lot of the Jose Quintana for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease trade back in 2017 for the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox, because, they robbed us. They robbed us for Jose Quintana, and that's just the facts. But looking back on it, we needed it to happen. We needed that. John Lackey wasn't doing as well. Jason Hamels was Jason Hamels. We needed that star. And at the time, Jose Quintana was an ace for the Chicago White Sox. So it was one of those things where it was like, we needed to do that. And it got us to the NLCS, I'm not going to lie. And now they need Craig Kimbrell. They need Ryan Tepera because, look at Trey Turner going to the Dodgers, Max Scherzer going to the Dodgers. No one knows what's going to happen with Trevor Bauer, but I refuse to even talk about him on this podcast until the facts are out, until there's another time for another day. But we're not even going to jump into that. But Nick Madrigal is one of those steals like Eloy was. Nick Madrigal is an amazing contact hitter. This man, for the rest of his career, even though injured right now, can bat over 300 consistently. Yeah, the home runs aren't really there. Maybe he'll hit 5 to 6 a year at best. But you don't know. That comes with time. That really does. Home runs are so overrated, I feel, nowadays. Look at the Cubs. Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Contreras, Kyle Schwarber. The list goes on and on. Addison Russell, of just amazing, amazing players who can crack 20 or more home runs a year. But where did that get us? You know what I mean? These guys are striking out. Baez is a 60% strikeout rate heading to the plate in 2021 at one point. And it's like, you know, like the home runs are great, but like we need production. And you have Nico Hoerner, who doesn't hit home runs either. For the most part, he still doesn't have one in 2021. I hate when the announcers say that because it's like, look how much he's doing though. He's batting over 300. You have Nick Madrigal and Nico Hoerner. When Ed Howard, Brennan Davis, Greg Dykman, and so many others come up, Miguel Amaya, Bryce Ball. If you get Anthony Rizzo back, Wilson Contreras is still here. And then free agents that we acquire, like Patrick Wisdom, I'm really excited. Like, I think you have your setup guys there. And then you, in the middle of them, you put your big sluggers, you know what I mean? And that's going to be awesome. You know, you could put Nico Hoerner at the leadoff spot. And then you could put, if you want it, you could put him at the leadoff spot. And then you could put Nick Madrigal at your 4, clean up, boom. And then in the middle, you could have Brennan, Howard, and Wisdom, or whichever way you want to put it. Contreras in there. I don't care. I don't give a shit. It's 1 to 2 years down the line, if anything. But yeah, Nick Madrigal was I'm definitely getting his jersey without a doubt. Right now I'm wearing Riz, if you can't tell, you know, but I had to. Favorite player since I was 11 years old, currently 21. It's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, we robbed them this time. And Craig Kimbrell is definitely no bump. Like, this man is the best closer in the NL. Liam Hendricks is the best closer in the AL. We're gonna be talking about that with Adam later. Ryan Tepera is great. You know, he had a rough outing for them yesterday. Gave up a home run and a couple hits, but it is what it is. But you know, jitters just got there. Give it time. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was a great trade. I thought we got the bang for our buck. I think there's a lot to do with Cody. I think there's a lot of potential there. But Nick Madrigal was the face of this trade. I'm getting his jersey. I love contact guys. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Next up, we had Javier Baez. Javier Baez goes to the New York Mets as predicted. Ask anybody I know. I said Javier Baez wants to go play with Francisco Lindor. That was just the facts. And that's what's going to happen. Francisco Lindor is currently out with injury, so Javi will play shortstop for the time being. Probably when the Lindor gets back, Javi will get moved to second. Pete Alonso is there. Like, this is Jacob deGrom. Like, this is going to be a nasty Mets team. I'm so excited for Javi. But in return, the Cubs get Pete Crow Armstrong and cash considerations. So we get a lot of cash, and then we get Pete Crow Armstrong, who's a top prospect outfielder for them. So now we got Greg Dykman, Brennan Davis, Pete Crow Armstrong, Ian Happ, if he ever figures out his life. You know, it's really exciting. It's really exciting to be a Cubs fan right now, because people don't realize in the minor leagues, we have a lot right now. And especially when the DH comes, like, excuse me, here's the thing. I'm naming Chicago native Ed Howard. You know, we got Cole Franklin on the show all the time. We got Brennan Davis on the show all the time. You know, he's All-Star Futures MVP. He's coming up. He's in the top 40 pipeline of the MLB top prospects. You got Ed Howard, who's going to be up there soon. The list goes on and on of guys who are just amazing on this team. Braylon Marquez, Miguel Amaya, amazing catching prospect that can easily play DH. And that's just the facts. Like, Patrick Wisdom, Nico Hoerner, Nick Madrigal, Pete Crow Armstrong, Greg Dykman, Bailey Horn, you know, all these guys, like, we're starting to see an amazing farm system come back. And that's something we hadn't seen in a while. Bryce Ball is another one that I think, you know, right now he's lower in our rankings, but I think he's going to pop up very soon. You know, if not, it is what it is, but, you know, I'm really excited about it. You know, we got Cole Roedier and so many others. The list just continues. I can do this all day. Like, we have a bunch of Christian Hernandez, a bunch of young kids. We had the 17-year-olds that we got and the 18-year-olds that we got for Yu Darvish and Victor Caratini last what was it, this spring, I would say. Yeah, this spring, I guess you could call it. That's amazing. I love that. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's something special that we're going to be seeing. Javier Baez is going to be missed. Javier Baez, I went into a long spiel about Rizzo. Javier Baez is one of those cool ones, though, because I was at his first Cubs game at Wrigley Field. It was awesome. I was at the Cubs convention in 2016, but it was 2015. It was for the 2016 season, but it was 2015. You know, like, Jason was on the team, Zobrist was on the team, but the season hadn't started yet. Javier Baez was walking around asking people if they wanted pictures and autographs with him. and everyone was walking past him, blah, blah, blah. And I got to talk to him, and my mom and sister and I walked past him. I didn't take a picture with him, but we were I don't remember why I didn't. I think we were going somewhere, but I think we had to go to one of the panels or something. Tom Ricketts was doing it, but I think about that to this day, that like everybody was just walking past him. If he would have did that now, oh my God, he would have been bum rushed. I mean, the man just completely took his game to a different level. The defense was always there. It was always the striking out. It was always the offense. And then in 2018, he grabs a hold of that, goes on this MVP run, finishes second only to Christian Yelich, who had an amazing season in his first year with the Brewers. Sorry if I'm talking a little low. I just woke up, but it's currently like 9 o'clock. But yeah, Javier Baez, man, forever remembered as El Mago, forever the magician, forever one of the best, greatest defenders I've ever seen in a Chicago Cubs uniform, without a doubt. He will definitely be missed, and it was definitely something that needed to be done, because the thing with Javi, I love him. I love him so much. One of my fan favorites other than Rizzo, but the strikeout rates, the mental game of Javi is not worth more than $200 million. Now, if he figures that out, he's worth up to $300 million. That defense is Gold Glove platinum level. You know what I mean? Like, there's no joke about that. He can obviously pump over 30 home runs a year, 100-something RBIs if he wanted, but it's just all a mental game. And I think playing with Francisco Lindor is really going to help that. I think they're really going to be able to communicate better, and I think he's going to help kind of control Javier Baez's tendencies to want to swing outside of the strike zone. And I think once he figures that out, he's going to be perfectly fine for years to come. But I just don't think, as of right now, you see a lot of guys like Kyle Schwarber left the Cubs and then pumped like 20 home runs in like 17 games. Like, sometimes guys just need to change the scenery to figure it out. And I think Javier Baez is one of those instances where, like, once he leaves, I think he's going to go on a tear like no other. And I think he can have an MVP type season at any point in time, whether it be at the rest of this season or whether it be next year. You know what I mean? Or 2 years down the line. I really think Javier Baez can do it all. Next up, like a minute before the trade deadline is over. It's almost 3 p.m. Everyone's freaking out. What's going to happen with Kris Bryant? I initially thought we got Joey Bart, top prospect of the San Francisco Giants. They have Buster Posey. I thought that's what we were trying to do. And it was very unfortunate that we didn't, but we ended up getting Kris Bryant gets sent to the Giants, obviously. You get outfielder Alexander Canario and right-hander Caleb Killian. This one was very questioned by a lot of people. Kris Bryant was one of the guys that we talked about earlier that I thought we'd get the second most for. I thought it would go Craig Kimbrell, Kris Bryant, Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Ryan Tepera, Andrew Chafin, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? But it ended up not being that way. As of right now, these guys can definitely end up being studs, and I could be wrong, but I just thought like Joey Bart was the main focus that I wanted. And even though we have Wilson Contreras, even though we have Miguel Amaya, not only would Joey Bart be a great trade piece, so would Miguel and so would Willie. You could keep Joey. Like, Joey's a stud. I thought we were going to get Joey. I was really excited about it. But it's all right. I think, at the end of the day, you needed to get something for Kris. He's a Scott Boras client. Even though he wants to stay, I think the chances were very slim unless the Ricketts were willing to pay, So Kris Bryant, man, what do I have to say about Kris? Kris is one of those things where without him, none of this was possible. You know what I mean? Like, without Kris Bryant, this World Series run doesn't happen. 2016 wins MVP, wins a World Series. 2015 wins Rookie of the Year, wins the Silver Slugger. Amazing defense. The man can play short, second, first, third, left, right, center, like anywhere. Who knows if he could catch and pitch? Like, yet to be seen, but the man can play over 7 positions, and that's very rare in the game of baseball. And a very consistent and high level as well. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, we'll just throw him in like pitching like Anthony Rizzo. Lowest Cubs ERA of all time, by the way, but belongs to Anthony Rizzo. But it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, yeah, like, we just needed to get something, and he even said himself, like, if he gets traded, he'd still consider re-signing in free agency because he just loves it here. So we definitely could get Kris Bryant back, and we just need to get some value back in return. And he'll always be remembered as one of the greatest in Chicago. He'll always be remembered as someone who did so much for the city and so much for us. And he broke the curse. All 3 of them did. Next up, we had it was very low too. We had Jason Marisnick got traded to the Padres for Anderson Espinoza. Yeah, I really don't care that Jason Marisnick got traded. But yeah, I mean, thank you for everything. I guess like you didn't really, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, the big three, man, the big three is gone, and we got a lot of prospects in return. We have a very bright future ahead of us. So I'm very excited about that. I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think Kyle Hendricks is still here. Willson Contreras is still here. And somehow Jason Heyward, if you would have told me in 2016 that one of the last men standing would be Jason Heyward, I would have said you were fucking nuts. You just can't give him away. Couldn't give him away if you wanted, even for free. Couldn't give him away. No one wants that contract. No one wants that 198 batting average. Like, amazing defense, Gold Glove renowned. Like, this man is a stud. But dude, I don't know. That's a topic for another day. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. And the next upcoming days, I will come out with a few more videos, and we'll be having these conversations about what happened to the Cubs, why this happened, and what we need to do moving forward. But I think, with Ed Howard, Nico Horner, Nick Madrigal, Brennan Davis, like I said, Miguel Amaya, Willson Contreras, Kyle Hendricks, we're in the right direction. We're in the right direction, and we're not as far off as I think everyone thinks we are. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that, we didn't lose these guys. We traded these guys. So we got something in return. We got great prospects that not only do they have to be on this team in the future, they can definitely be flipped for something better. Like, say Bryce Ball doesn't pan out. You know how many outfielders I just named that we got during the trade deadline? It's a lot. Like, and those aren't even all of them. Like, we have a crap ton. We have Brennan Davis, Cole Rodier. The list goes on, but like, we got a lot of guys that we could flip for other position players as well, or top prospects, or so on and so forth. Like, would it have been nice to get Joey Bart? Hell yeah, dude. I was so excited. I thought we got Joey Bart. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But Nick Madrigal is definitely one of those guys I'm just excited and I'm pumped about. Yeah, but I just want to say, like, to all the Cubs fans freaking out right now, I give this 2 to 3 years, and then we're going to be back on top. Not saying we're going to the World Series, but we're going to be back on top. I'm obviously going to have to see how these guys continue to develop, but if all goes well, and I hate the people who are saying, oh, well, you can't pencil in Ed Howard or Brennan Davis until they come up because blah, 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 because you need to see production first, because you need to see how they play. Listen, if that's your mentality and that's how you're thinking about it, you're thinking about it wrong. The problem is you have to bank on these guys because you believe in them. You need to have that attitude. You believed in Javier Baez and Rizzo, didn't you? Like, you believed in Willson Contreras when he got brought up. You believed in all these guys, Addison Russell, so on and so forth, when they were brought up. But now it's different. Now it's different because your favorite players are gone. You need to stop. We need to stop babying like the fan base. Like, dude, like, just give it a minute. I understand the Ricketts don't spend that much money. I understand they act more broke than they are. That's without a doubt. That's without question. And it's sorry as hell. Don't get me wrong. Like, they needed to do a lot better than they did. The Dodgers are case in point. You just got Max Scherzer, Trevor Bauer, David Price, Mookie Betts, and Trey Turner all in like a span of a year and a half. Like, that's insane. And Justin Turner back. But it's like that's how you win games. That's the obviously and they have an amazing farm system. Like, you build up the farm and you spend money. That's how you win a World Series. You can't do one or the other. So, we still have Kyle, we still have Willson. By the time all these guys are up, Jason Heyward's contract will hopefully be over, or we'll just cut him loose as they should. I would do it now if it wasn't so much money. But with that being said, I think it's safe to say that the Cubs' future is in good hands. I think, there's a lot of potential there, especially if Patrick Wisdom continues to get better. He's like 29 years old, but I mean, he's World Rookie of the Year candidate right now, but for the NL at least. But yeah, I'm really excited about the future. I think it's going to be something really special. And I think it goes very untalked about. It goes very underrated. And, personally, as much as I'll miss these guys, I think there's a good shot that 2 of 3 do come back. I think Bryant and Rizzo definitely could return if they want to. Baez, I think, is going to stay. I think he's going to love New York. I think he's going to fall in love with it. I think he's going to love Pete Alonso. He's going to love Francisco Lindor, Jacob deGrom, so on and so forth. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for listening. We're going to come out with more videos more consistently, breaking down stuff going on about the Chicago Bulls, free agency, the NBA draft, the NFL with Justin Fields, and so much more. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. This has been Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic. Peace out and have a great day.